and here we are recording to the cloud. This is meeting 12, episode 12 of our Solve SaaSOps Life virtual event. We are almost a teenager, only one more meeting to go, and we progress from boyhood to adulthood. But as we are still a young man, young girl, we're going to talk about some of the topics that have come up in our circle. And the two topics we are going to talk about today are how to solve for remote whiteboarding and first-hand experience with specific tools. Obviously, back in the day when we used to go into offices, we'd all stand in front of a dry white marker board and we would write down our ideas, and we would have mind maps and speech bubbles and flow charts and arrows and formula and everything worked out for what we were going to do. How do we do that? And how do we have that same experience now that we're all remote and working at different locations? And then the other topic for today I thought would be good was around many companies are changing to ensure they are a more inclusive and diverse place. And I wanted to find out how we as IT professionals can be involved with that.
Speaking of DEI, Colin.
Pardon?
I said, speaking of DEI, Colin.
Yes.
You were using some gendered language back there.
I know. I try to be as gender neutral as I can. Obviously, some people's natural speech patterns prefer one gender pronoun to the other. I do often refer to end users as they, because I never know from their name often whether they are, and one shouldn't presume. But yeah, you're very well spotted, Rose. And I know there are other discussions about, should we be calling whiteboards whiteboards, or should they be called, dry erase boards? Obviously there's discussions over allow lists and block lists, being used as opposed to white lists and black lists. So that's a whole second half of the 45 minutes hour discussion. But whiteboards, who used, when we were back in offices, who used to use a dry whiteboard to write out ideas with co-workers and teams? Yeah. So
well, I used a blackboard and literally was chalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chalkboard. So how do we do that? What's the best way? What successes have you had doing that electronically and remotely?
Kelsey, you were talking before we hit the record button.
Yeah, let me recap. The main two we'll call virtual dry erase boards to be proper here, inclusive here. The two that I'm most familiar with that I've used, and I know a lot of Intel, we can see everything that everyone's using from the SaaS perspective. The most popular one we see is Miro. It's Miro. People seem to love it. There's a lot of functionality that takes it beyond just awkwardly writing on something at the same time, kind of like you're all collaborating in MS Paint. That one's pretty great. The other, I know InVision recently released into their freehand feature set some like whiteboarding capabilities. So that one's pretty popular, I would think, but it's pretty new. It's just last month. Otherwise, though, I think how they're used and how to make it successful is really depends on what you're wanting to get out of it. So if you're wanting to share ideas and brainstorm on something, then that may be better done in like just shared docs, Google Docs situation. If it's like process oriented and workflows, I think a tool like Miro could be great, but then there's also some other like flow chart tools that are free that may be a better solution for that. That's typically how I've handled it. And then as far as like best practices for making it work collaboratively in remote environment, I also think that someone has to take the initiative to kick it off. You don't want to show up to a meeting with this blank Miro, whatever pulled up without any intention of how are we going to like get the momentum here. You have to have a bit of preparation for whatever the end result you're going for is. So.
Right. Yeah. You've got to show up with something already on that page so that people can see the benefit and what it's going to do for them. Right.
Yes, it's similar to Google Docs, collaborative taking notes for people that never used that or never done it. Yeah, come in with a tool or with a pre-filled page.
Just like Colin's doing with this discussion right now.
So a segue, talking of Google, who has used a Jamboard, either the big physical expensive things or the software package that you can use? We have some Jamboards.
Yeah,
Right.
it's interesting. I like that there's different types of like media basically that you can add to it. Like it's not just all freehand drawing.
Yes, I think, dry whiteboards are brilliant because, you can get your pen and you can draw stuff, but being able to search online and find an image and then, put that in and then annotate that image and have people operating, across different offices using, the same Jam, which is a very strange file format to be working in. I don't know where their marketing came with calling it a Jamboard and calling them jams.
It's pretty nice to be able to send the jam out to everyone in the meeting afterwards too. The physical Jamboard took me a little bit to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's pretty nice.
I'm
Yeah.
sure those smart boards that we used in school, some of us.
Yeah.
For us with when we were in office, we had D10 boards that we used with Zoom. So we would just pop in a meeting
Nice.
and use that, and people liked that a lot. But now that we're not in the office, we just have them sitting and doing nothing.
I was gonna ask, so Zoom has a whiteboarding feature baked into it.
Yeah.
People
Never used it.
It works for pretty well. It's the same issue of not having the input method, that not having a whiteboard. If you have an iPad, using Zoom's whiteboard feature is really easy. It actually works pretty smoothly in my experience. But if you just have your computer, for me, whiteboarding is easy because it's I can really visually do describe what I'm thinking. But
Oh,
No,
Brian.
no, buffering.
Brian, later.
Really
For
There he's gone. Oh, he's back.
He's back.
Yay.
Yes.
this is a new fun experience where my Zoom just drops randomly every 45 minutes or so for 10 seconds and then reconnects.
Oh, you're
Sounds like a
free
networking
version.
issue.
I see.
If only there was some kind of IT professional who could help me out here. It's the other thing. It's I will spend hours and am an effective IT professional troubleshooting our company's network, but when it comes to my own Wi-Fi, I'm just I don't know, it doesn't work. I don't.
Yeah, nobody's got time for that.
We could do a
Yeah.
song.
Let's.
We each come with our own lingering IT problem, and then we help each other solve it.
Yeah.
If you had a whiteboard, you could write down every time it happens, and you could track.
It's like the cobblemaker shoes.
Yes.
The children, the cobblemakers' children have no shoes. So yeah.
Exactly. So what I was saying was it's just way easier for me to draw than it is for me to use a mouse and draw boxes and all this stuff. So I don't know. I haven't found unless I also don't have a touchscreen computer. So unless somebody else has figured that out, I don't know.
I would
Yeah,
think, you would want whiteboarding tools to be fairly responsive in a lot of ways. Some people don't have iPads, so you would want it to be able to function effectively on the phone, which most people have. But then, you also want people to be able to interact with it on a computer if they have to. So that's where Jamboard, you can literally just put sticky notes on the board and
Yeah.
type stuff, which is
And that's the problem I've seen with any of the remote whiteboarding is you have to have an iPad with a pencil basically to draw things out in any efficient way. I have a touchscreen laptop and I wouldn't even consider doing that because it's not responsive the way you need it to be. We have Jamboards but that's what I've done is if I'm on a browser, I'll just throw a sticky note down with an idea and leave it there, Or you can if you have someone who has an iPad, you can just have them be take the notes.
Note taker. Yeah. Well, and I was looking at our IT or SaaS spend management tool the other day, And I came across something that I guess would work for this purpose. It's called Padlet. And they have different kinds of Padlets that you can do, but basically you can get different kinds of media and drawings into one. It was originally made as like a virtual corkboard kind of thing. I know you're all Googling right now. That's how it happens. But yeah, so it originally was a virtual corkboard where you could like pin images and like documents and stuff like that. And then I think they've evolved it a little bit so that there's drawing capabilities there. But I feel like that one would be potentially a little bit more responsive to people using computers primarily. Because yeah, that touchscreen thing is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to do it if I didn't have a stylus. If I didn't have the Apple Pencil for my iPad, like I
Right.
wouldn't.
It's really not efficient, and that's why if you don't have someone or a few people actually writing down what's being tossed around, it's pretty inefficient, because if you want to take the time to throw a sticky note down and type it out, it's much easier. Just the way you do it in person, you just jot it down as you're going, and it's really hard to recapture that quick and easy, hashing things out kind of feeling.
Yeah. Should we have a go at this online collaboration through a whiteboard? So I've just fired up a jam, and I've got Mike's email, I've got Kelsey's, I've got Dominic's, I've got Rosie's, I've got Brian's. I don't have Alex and Chris. If you want to put your email in the chat, and I can send you all this jam, and then I'll share my screen and we'll see what chaos we have. So whatever we got. So yeah, I love these live ideas and tests. So this is interesting. And you're all on G Suite, aren't you? I'm guessing. Be curious.
Chris is not. Chris, have you used the Surface Studio, the Surface Hub?
You have Chrome? That's all you need.
Yeah, no, but we'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Wonder if he'll be able to do it. Yeah.
Let's find out. Hey, that's a good way to find out. Like, can we collaborate with somebody outside that doesn't have a G Suite account?
So what do I need to do?
I'll tell you what, Colin, while you're lining that up, I'll get a Miro board going so we can maybe compare the two.
Yes, please. Let's.
Well, we're on Zoom, right? Don't we have another option there?
That's a great point.
It is. We could do that. So I hope this gets. I hope this records my screen as well, so we can try and edit that in. So, so here we are. Obviously, if I was clever, I would have fired this up on my laptop. I could go and get my laptop because my laptop's touchscreen. But
yeah, I'm gonna use my iPad to see how. I don't have an Apple Pencil though.
What would we need to do? Let's think up what we're gonna do. What are we? We are.
Why don't we just whiteboard about whiteboards, y'all?
Yes.
It's like a mind map and stuff.
Yeah, it's a great place to
play. We had a business idea last night.
This is brilliant. Mike and I are gonna spend our times. Somebody's brought in an image, which is brilliant.
That's super meta.
That is very good.
Love this.
Yeah, this is relatively responsive, I think, isn't it? Yeah, does the image search work as well? What do you have to do? You Google image search.
Yeah, that's how I got the whiteboard in there.
Yeah, and you can add that in as well. All right. So we can just search for, let's add one of these, whatever it says. Good old classic Dilbert cartoon. That's a very old one. Oh my God. I just searched for Dilbert, and that was the first image that I could find. It came up.
I'm still missing the opportunity to add video.
Yes, it is difficult to write. Obviously, that's where we're really missing out.
It's interesting. There's not a text option.
Mm.
Wait, but you can do a sticky note.
Yeah, but you can't just can I just type a note on there like I would be, I know it's kind of,
right, like
why would you do that? But
like text onto something. you would have to basically use a sticky note.
Yeah, I think you can right-click on a word and it will make it into text. But also, like, you can do a laser, so I can say, look, solve, and then it disappears. So if you are working through your presentation, you could say, obviously the data is going to flow through here. It's going to go all the way around here and come out the other side. That's how it would work.
Here that you can actually edit elements that other people have put in. You can only erase them.
Ah, so it could be.
So like I can't like tap on this hello world sticky note. Oh, maybe I can. I can change the text.
Yeah, you can.
Better. Okay, that was weird because like I was clicking on it a bunch of times and it wouldn't do it.
Ah, so you can have a competition to like who can delete the most stuff before making the most stuff. All right. So this has been relatively, obviously it's not very productive, and we haven't come up with a master project, but it's been a good way to sort of collaborate. If this was real and genuine, we could have, brainstormed, had an idea shower together, and come up with our new SaaS company that we want to start up and then sell.
I'll tell you what I think is missing here. I like in Lucidchart, and I think Myra may have this as well. I like the ability to string things together with like the magnetic arrows, and I don't see a way to do that here.
Right, that is nice with Lucidchart. How many people here are Lucidchart users? We use them. Yeah, 3, 4,
it's like,
a little bit.
That's easier in Lucidchart, but then like everything else is harder.
Right. Yes. Yeah. This comes down to where there isn't one ideal solution, is there? You have to weigh up the pros and cons of each one.
While we're on the Google topic, has anyone spent time with Google Drawing, which is like a lighter version of Jam, I think? But
I hate it.
Is that diagram?
Use Draw.io.
Oh, maybe it is diagram. Oh no, I think it is Drawing.
Yeah, so there's Google Drawings, and then there's diagrams.net, which is now Draw.io, which is another really common one because it's free.
Drawing Google.
I've actually used Google Slides in that way.
Oh, that's a good idea, Kelsey. Yeah.
You can do like the smart objects and all of those kinds of things pretty easily, where you get that workflow or like any sort of Gantt view that you want.
Yep.
Awesome.
I've done that as well.
Yeah, we always use Drawing. Did they change the names? I thought it used to be Diagrams. Maybe it's...
No, it was Drawing all along.
All right. Okay. Yeah,
well, Drawing seems to be my go-to for the like quick idea mapping, because you can embed them right into a Google Doc for what it's worth. So they're just easy to bring up for me. But I mean, utility-wise, I think. I've spent
like. Can you export jams into something else?
I don't know.
Yeah, PDFs.
Yeah, you
JPEGs,
can.
You can save
you
the frame as an image.
Yeah.
But your point,
PDF, yeah.
Stone, about like being able to edit it and then like in real time it's updating in a doc is kind of good, because we're talking about also like casual ideation into like structured documents is like. And like on the Lucidchart is way more on the like structured document side of things, and like just a Google Doc where you're just like jotting down notes kind of like in the middle, depending on where you're leaning with it, and then like just drawing stuff, right?
Yeah, but it's faster to go to slides.new and then embed a slide into a Google Doc at the same way that it automatically updates. So that's why we do it, or I do it this way.
All right. Do we want to test another solution live?
I'd offer Miro, but I'm not on a paid version where I can make it public to everyone. So if anyone happens to have one, we can do that.
No.
Or if Brian wants to take out the credit card and Better Cloud can sponsor it.
Okay.
I feel like a proper test should have parameters, but yeah.
I actually do have one. I've never used it, but because I'm SaaS and I'm admin, I get to have one.
Nice.
So maybe I can throw a blank one up here real quick if I can. Oh, there's a demo report. No, that's
how many IT professionals does it take to have a license for something?
Only
I don't have G Suite, but I do have Miro.
Yeah.
Only
Is
there's-
there an Office equivalent, or I mean, I'm sure the Microsoft ecosystem has a drawing thing. Oh, Visio, I guess. Is that what it's called?
Well,
Yeah,
they have
right,
Visio and they have Whiteboard. They have Microsoft Whiteboard, so they have both.
Okay.
Yeah,
Both
and
options.
they
there.
have the Surface Hub, which is and the Surface Hub 2, which is basically the Jamboard of them. And I've used the Surface Hub, basically the one, and it's great.
Yeah,
You can
Really?
it's more it runs Windows 10 Pro basically, so you can install your own apps there, which you cannot do on a Jamboard, for example, because a Jamboard only runs Android with the Jamboard app for the
You also
Jamboard
cannot
itself.
use the Miro iPad app if you don't have a paid subscription.
Yeah, wasn't there an update about Whiteboard recently? I thought there was. I thought I saw somewhere that there was an update had been released, or an online version. I know I'd seen something. Am I imagining it? No, it is just whiteboard.microsoft.com. I think if you sign in. Yep, I'm just signing in now.
All right, you guys. Let's see.
If you've got an Office 365 account, yeah, you can create a similar sort of experience with the Jamboard. I think they have some templates. Yeah, it's another solution or another option.
So I love
I
this.
could offer a third one.
What's fun
It's
is
the
so you
third
guys have
option.
all this link, and it's all just showing you as like guest designer and guest creator and guest this and that. So that's fun.
Wait,
Okay.
Whiteboard itself actually like extend out infinitely?
Whoa.
Because that's what it feels like. Like you just enter this empty space. It's not like a sheet or a board. It's like a space.
Do you want me to share this? Colin, are you able to?
I think you're muted, Colin.
Sorry, bit of noise in the house.
Ooh, it has the
See if I can-
auto magnetic arrow thing.
And you can kind of you can bring in a Kanban board. Check this out.
What?
That's pretty clever.
You can also integrate with Slack.
You can do it this way.
Let's
Yeah.
share my screen.
What does the Slack integration do?
Approve request to join right from Slack and receive notifications of activities like comments and
Oh,
mentions
nice.
in your private feed. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So this is the link that you sent, Chris.
Yeah. So this is a public link that all
Wow.
of you have access to as just a public link. You can send individual invites, but this way you can just say, hey guys, come together and let's do this. I mean, people, excuse me. We'll cover that later.
Interesting that it'll show you these names and these arrows and icons for where the other person's mouse is. And
Yeah, it's quite chaotic. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it feels chaotic, but if you were like presenting one,
So,
it's a lot easier to follow the pointer.
and you can turn that off up in that top thing where it says like guest editing and the icons. If you click that blue arrow with the dot with the lines, it'll turn off those little.
But then it looks so lonely.
Well, yeah, but if they're distracting to you, you have an option.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess if we had a goal, this would make a lot more sense.
yes. That's why I was saying we should have pitched our SaaSOps idea.
Maybe let's do that.
But that's a non-recorded option.
Yeah, that
Right.
we struck that.
Remember, we can share that for
All
real.
right.
I
So
like
the-
it because it has a lot of different kinds of stuff. I'm just curious, what does it cost?
Oh yeah.
We are on the team plan, which is, I believe, $20 a month per user. Actually, maybe I can confirm that.
Per user, $20 a month.
And that's just our plan because we're on monthly. So we're not like getting any kind of negotiation tactics in there.
Just to like frame that, G Suite for Business,
Mm-hmm.
$15 a month now. Is that what it is?
Mm.
Enterprise.
Yeah.
Okay.
$12.50. Enterprise 25.
So
Yeah, this is really
$20
nice. It's like it's a clear example of another
I take it
tool
away.
where where like Google can make a decent version of it, but if somebody focuses all their time on it, this is the result. Almost like Slack and Hangouts, you know?
And
Yeah.
so, it's $10 a month, sorry, not 20. So that's a significant difference. We have 20 users. That was my backwards.
It is still quite a cost when you compare it to the other products. But if it is a vital tool or an important tool to your business with how you work, like if you're a product manager and a team of developers, obviously would benefit from something like this. So,
and that's exactly who on our team who uses it is our product team.
Yeah. So it's all down to the team, the need, and then it seems like even a couple of the applications that we looked at, they're relatively similar, and it's all going to depend on what your ecosystem is. Whether you're on G Suite, you can just use Jamboard. If you're on Microsoft, you can use the Whiteboard, or if you're somebody else, you can use one of these other programs. All right, cool. Any last thoughts?
I just thought up the third option.
Oh yeah, third. What's that?
Oh yeah, let's check that out.
We're up in Mural,
Mural.co.
which I think is
which
actually
is
what one of our organizations use. I totally forgot that it's a whiteboarding tool.
which is a Netherlands-based, Amsterdam-based company, I think. Well, based. I think they're actually all remote as well, like everyone else.
I only have one question.
That is a cool company.
How do I make my pencil bigger?
Ooh. As in draw bigger lines.
Yeah, like this is a skinny line. I'd like that to be bigger.
At the top, you have options.
You have options.
Are those just
I'm using the highlighter though. Like I'm using the supposedly the back.
Yeah. Colin is not sharing it.
Yeah, no, I stopped sharing my screen. So,
Yeah, you don't share the third option that we have. We have Mural here with a really big idea critique pad.
Where's your Mural? All right, sorry. Let me copy that. I was sorry.
Sitting on his phone.
I was multitasking.
Ignoring everyone.
No, unfortunately, Amazon have been emailing me or texting me saying that items are out of stock. And I've been trying to find substitutes. I mean, for my grocery delivery. So it's terribly timed, unfortunately. But let's share this. So this is
Template, by the way.
Mural.
This is a template, yeah.
This is actually really cool. The bottom four, there's 4 questions to answer. I believe we have all the right people on the team.
Oh my God.
I will say one thing that's frustrating about this is switching between draw and move. So if you zoom in on the thing, then you have to like click out of draw to move the panel, move the page, and then go back in. Unless you have which one?
Unless you have a trackpad.
Right.
Yeah. I'm using the trackpad to do that, to do moving and zooming.
That makes sense. So the organization that we have that uses this is the same one that has like all those engineers, and so they all have Macs.
So this seems like this has text in it. So is this for like editing text, or is that just an image where it's got the really big?
You can create text as normal, as you would expect, which you cannot do
edit the existing
in Jamboard.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
or
it's like
a PDF that we're talking on top of.
Well, the LOL is different.
I like the follow. Like if you look at the icons on the bottom, you can choose to follow somebody. And so
that's
you can
cool.
just watch what they're doing. That's pretty neat.
I think that was also an option back
That's good.
in you can do that in Miro too, I think. So it's a nice it's a nice carryover to both.
I feel like we're a group of influencers that we need to like sell this video on YouTube.
I think so.
This could definitely be a
Live.
series.
Guys.
Right?
Live product testing and evaluation. This is like, there's the craze on YouTube where people will listen to a song that's, not in their normal genre of listening. There was a couple of young kids listen to a Carpenter's song for the first time and were sort of critiquing that and giving their impression.
Kids React kind of stuff.
Yeah. And we're doing the same thing. Maybe we should make this a regular sort of session or section of our programming.
Similar to the Solve Tank.
Solve Tank, yes.
Except we're not letting them speak for themselves. We're not letting companies speak for themselves at all.
This is how you entice them to come on.
This is kind of like a Solve unboxing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then what it does is it tells us which ones we want the Solve Tank to handle. To
yes, yeah. But it's
one thing.
We have 5-6 IT professionals. We spend 10 minutes on a piece of software. If we can't work out how to use it or deploy it, or
that's basically my SaaS evaluation process. So.
Yes.
Not
okay.
Can I use this? Yes or no?
As you can see, you have to follow me.
Yeah, it looks...
Which is a cool feature.
It looks very, very busy with all of these arrows flying around. I do think...
Put giant bullseyes on there, too.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're using it right, though.
No. I think obviously an easier, better test would have been having proper sort of plan and project for us to do. So...
and we wouldn't necessarily get to try out the features.
No. So, all right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So, a quick round robin out of those three. Although we didn't really look at the Microsoft one, which one jumps out as the potential best version for you guys?
Jamboard, Miro, and Mural, right?
Yeah.
I think for me, it was Miro. But I don't know if I'm just being like influenced by the fact that it looked cleaner to me. It felt like it was less cumbersome to like draw boxes and to draw arrows, but then to also type at the same time than Mural, where like you actually have to. I don't like the ones where you have to drag shapes out onto things and then do something with them. I just want to be able to like draw it and then like.
One thing I did really like about Mural that the others didn't have was it had a lot of like business oriented templates. Like if you went into the table looking icon, you could see like you can add like quadrant based stuff where you can like I could make my own Gartner Magic Quadrant using Mural. Right? Like you could do some really interesting things there. Dominic totally does that. I would totally do that for fun on my off time because I'm such a nerd. But so I think the other one was definitely Miro was good for like organic, like creation of stuff. But I think Mural had a lot of structure that you could add to it if you needed to. So that's cool.
I mean, I will say that, as I look at Miro and I go to choose a template, there are a ton of different options.
Yeah, I imagine that these companies, the product teams have a struggle of, do you keep the interface really simple when you're actually in editing it versus having the structure live outside so you enter into a template versus creating all of this structure once you're in it. That's kind of the trade-off. And that's probably how they differentiate themselves too.
But I also guess it depends on what kind of whiteboarding you're doing. Because like we were talking before, right? There are different use cases for it. And in many of them, it helps to like create a structure first.
Yes,
but
that's
one guy solo doing it. So, well, yeah, so look what I did. That's one person solo doing it.
What's interesting, I purposely went in and made a blank board just to leave it I actually had to go create that. I didn't even find it can I just have an empty board with nothing on it? So it was an interesting.
Let's quickly show you what the Microsoft one looks like, just so we can see. And that's it. It's pretty boring. It is literally what it says on the tin. It is a whiteboard. This is white. It's a board. I can take my pens and I can draw stuff in different colors.
4 colors.
And then I can sell that for a lot of money in a hipster art gallery.
Wow. This is what This reminds me of like when you upload a Word document to Google Drive, because it's a form that you used to fill out in person. And instead of like creating something that's like online native, you just recreated it.
Yeah, right. They recreated the real life experience without using technology.
Also, like,
or like
harder.
Like I thought the Jamboard looked relatively simple, but now it's light years ahead.
That's why it's from Microsoft.
That eraser erases the whole line at once. It doesn't erase like little parts of the line.
No, it just took it all away.
It's an undo. Yeah.
It's basically Microsoft Paint.
Yeah.
In a whiteboard.
But worse.
It works,
but worse and less
they've done
features.
a collaborative paint with like limited colors and no like shapes.
No.
Nah, you don't need shapes. Yeah.
I wonder if there's a whiteboarding tool out there that can do like like object recognition, and text recognition, where when you write stuff, like it becomes, because I know like
Jamboard, Jamboard does that.
I'm pretty sure the Jamboard you can do that.
I don't know that
Not online, but on your mobile apps it does.
Yeah. I think you got to have the app, haven't you, or the actual board? Because I think I remember
Android or Android,
I hold down and you get more options.
I wrote stuff in the Jamboard and it did not.
You have to press the pencil again, and then you can choose those options.
Oh,
on the left.
Right.
Yeah. There are 3 options.
Select if I want it to be shapes or
letters.
Or letters, yeah.
Want to quickly move on to the other topic that we wanted to discuss?
Yeah, wrap it up in the last 10 minutes. Diversity.
That
small topic of diversity in 10 minutes. We should get this fixed. That should work.
But obviously this is going to be this is an important topic that's going to be around for a long time. But looking in the comments that were in the Slack channel, there was a lot of discussions about I guess the first step for diversity inclusion is for putting in options for pronouns into people's email signatures. And I know there's different ways of doing that. It's not all technologies make it easier, and if you've got multiple platforms and multiple identities, how have people tackled that? I'm not going to say first step, because it's not a first step, but it's a step in working on diversity and inclusion. So we use a field in Better Cloud, which we use as our management tool. There's an editable field in the Google profile, and we use that that people can edit and put in their preferred pronouns if they wish to have them displayed, and then they appear in the email signature. We haven't spread that across to other applications and systems, but that's the initial step, and and I know that technology will catch up, and then some systems, I hear that Okta has a better process than others. I'm wondering what other people have done and what have you had to cobble or hack together to get things working.
We've done a lot of stuff. Mostly we just create the fields for people to enter them, because I just want to share something that's like, it's like step 2 of DEI. So step 1 is realizing, we should allow people to put their pronouns in their profiles or their email signatures or whatever. Step 2 is realizing that you cannot require people to do that, and you shouldn't require people to do that. And so like we're trying to figure out a way where we don't require people, but so that's why we don't sync them across different things, because it's hard to negotiate the if-then stuff in all of the different apps. So
we
have the field everywhere. You guys map it to a particular field, Brian. I know you guys covered that in the SaaSOps show.
We do. Here, I'm going to plug the SaaSOps show. So actually here in the very first episode that we made, which is somewhat raw, so be gentle, was all about how we handled this. So we got a request from our people and culture team saying like, hey, people would like to add this, like what can we do to facilitate it? And I think this is a great example of like, I think this is really a great example of like IT being a thing that can help enable like a non-IT thing, right? Like just make diversity inclusion better, or like help your company's culture, or like drive an initiative with technology that in a maybe sort of novel way. So we use Okta, obviously we use BetterCloud, and we use BetterCloud to manage our signature policies. And so the signature policies are set automatically. And so I created a custom field in Okta that end users can edit. That field is mapped to a field in G Suite. We use the home instant messenger field because not a lot of people are using AIM or whatever for that. And we actually use the professional instant messenger field, or the work instant messenger field for like Calendly links or something like that too a while back. So we map it to home IM, and then in our signature template, it puts that field. But to your point, we don't require it. And so if the field is blank, it just deletes the entire line from the email signature. But like if you have downstream apps that like don't support that, then obviously it gets a little bit trickier. But right now, email is the only thing that field gets pushed into. Right. But it's pretty slick. I mean, like in the end, like a user just clicks on edit their profile in Okta. They put in whatever they want. It's just a freeform text. I mean, it's not like we don't make like options. You just type whatever you want, and then overnight that gets synced into your
One
Gmail
of
signature.
the other common DEI things that I don't think people think about a lot is the ability to use preferred names instead of like your
why are you not
name.
creating a new
and you have to work with HR on that. They have to accept that you're going to do that, and usually they're pretty good about it. But the problem is like if you have your directory syncing with your HR tool, sometimes you have to have your data clean, and you have to be able to get your preferred names into that tool in order to sync them across. Like for instance, like this is a DEI one, but it's also one that's like important to me because my first name is not actually Rose, by the way. What?
I'm right there with you.
So it's something that like I have to deal with at every employer, and some employers handle it a lot better than others, and some of them I'm just constantly going by my first name for the entirety of my tenure. But it also matters to, you know, employees who are transitioning, employees who are, you know, dealing with racialized trauma, that kind of stuff, right? Allowing them to have preferred names and allowing their email addresses and their usernames and stuff to reflect that is important. So.
Yeah, we don't have we have preferred name fields that get synced into, like, I think Slack is like a really obvious big one, and yeah. Slack's a
big one, I think.
Yeah, and so it's also Slack's like SCIM API is kind of weird and buggy, I feel like sometimes, and so it doesn't always work the way that we expect it to. But basically, like if people fill out the preferred names field, or like we have a preferred first name, like preferred last name, and if they fill them out, it like reconstructs their username and adds in those fields to the Slack provisioning, and it tends to work pretty well. The other aspect to that is like what you were talking about making sure people know you're doing it, or like working with other teams. Our HR team was somewhat hesitant to make these changes. And when it came down to it, it ended up being that like it was because of how they were able to, like the way that they had to audit their payroll data in ADP was like based on a name search, and if they didn't know the person's name, and like they couldn't. So we worked with them to be like, okay, well actually if you tie this piece to this piece to this piece, and you can like, you have the same ID number the whole way through, like you can just use that. You don't need to search by their name. And it ended up being just like a workflow issue. You just like change how they're searching for something.
And this is all very easy to solve, but it requires work by the HRIS system, because yeah, obviously for HR legal reasons, they need to know
legal name.
you know, they need to know the Rose Layton is actually, you know.
You're gonna guess my first name, are you?
I could. I was going to try and make up something funny. Genevieve Layton is her real legal name, and obviously that's what's on her bank accounts, and that's what her payroll needs to go to. So it needs to have the you know, the preferred name, and it's just as it would be easy for Workday. Who's the other one? Bamboo HR to have a preferred name option, an attribute, and for us to be syncing that information in to, you know, to our G Suite or Office 365 and procure, you know, have the account creation, you know, done that way. Yeah, it's the legal name and the preferred name. You know, we've dealt with that in an operational issues where, you know, especially being a global company and you have people from other offices in other countries, especially in APAC, where a lot of times they will adopt a Western name, you know, and obviously HR knows them legally by one name, and, you know, you've got them in system somewhere, you know, something else. It's difficult sometimes to know who is who and keep track of things. So there are operational issues for this, you know, diversity and inclusion. So.
The other last thing I was thinking about for inclusion, well, like when I think about how IT can work on helping inclusion, the last thing I think about is accessibility, right? Which remote work is one of the ways that we make our workplaces more accessible, which is part of why I like it so much. But there's a lot of things we can do to make our organization more accessible for people who have, you know, various physical impairments, mental impairments, those sorts of things. One of the things that I am trying to figure out is I'm trying to figure out how to closed caption all of my training videos.
Oh.
Like I make a lot of training videos where it's basically like me like talking at people.
Yeah.
And we do them on Zoom. And actually one of the huge draws of Google Meet is that they have that live closed captioning feature.
Yeah.
Which
Just
I'm pretty sure you can go back and change later. So it like records it in real time, but then you can like go back and edit the captions later for the video.
Right.
I thought Zoom had that.
Zoom webinars.
They have an audio, they have a transcription thing, but their CCs have to be typed by hand.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think it's a newer feature for Zoom webinar where it'll take your transcription automatically and put it in. I haven't tested it yet though.
What we do is we upload
Like
those videos to
transcription
YouTube.
automatically and to close captions on the recording. You mean, Kelsey, right?
On the recording, yeah.
Yeah, the thing about Google Meet is that it does it in real time and the recording. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
But we have recently had some folks get hearing aids and stuff at our organization. We have a very young organization, one of them is. And so but yeah, so it's been something that comes up. But also like it's shockingly hard to find like accessories that work appropriately for people who are hard of hearing. Like we had a really hard time finding headsets and stuff that will work well with particular kinds of hearing aids or amplifiers, right? That aren't like super complicated for the user to use. And when we're remote, we need them to be able to use their own stuff. So, not to mention that literally everything is low contrast these days.
Yeah. Gray shades of gray and like very slick looking designs that are often very, very inaccessible. Yeah, apps should have like a high contrast mode. Like I think Office does, and like we're obviously like Windows itself does.
Yeah,
like,
and Slack has like a high contrast theme, and a lot of things do. But there's a lot of these like little startup-y SaaS apps that don't.
I was just thinking because somebody just pointed out in one of our product channels, like one of our selector buttons is like almost impossible to see from like a side angle on your computer, and they're like, yeah, we should probably change that. It's a good idea. The other one about inclusion that is more recent now is people in different, not everybody's in the same time zone and not everybody can work on stuff at the same time. And I think like the push for more asynchronous collaboration is really important. I think that's like why the whiteboarding like I always get like, I don't like brainstorming very much because I feel like when I am put on the spot, like I can't like come up with an idea. But if you give me like time offline to like think of things and like write stuff down, like I will. And that's kind of just my like learning style too, or the way that I work. But solutions to like help make sure that people like don't overly rely on live meetings.
Yeah.
And can find time, you know, where people can if you do, can find time where people can actually work together.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
I think people push super hard for the live meetings, especially at the beginning, because that's just how they know to talk to each other, right? Or at least live chat in Slack or whatever you're using. But I think organizations can be really empowered if they go full asynchronous or at least partial asynchronous. And that's a lifestyle almost. Like that's not
to Brian's point, I think it also goes into, in general, people's communication style that you have to accommodate for that in meetings. And that's extra difficult in remote settings where the audio can't pick up people trying to get in at one time.
Yes, yeah.
There's a methodology called Fierce Conversations that I had to do training for at a last role that touched on that a little bit, of how the leader of the meeting, it has some tools and worksheets, like if you think that's a problem at your organization. Overall, that whole book and that methodology is like a lot to try and take on, so I don't really support it fully, but there's bits and pieces within it, like how you enable and ask questions in a way that helps people feel comfortable to respond in a group setting. So I think that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Interesting to find more about that. If you've got any of that reading and research to share with the group on the Slack channel, that'd be great. Well, we've come up to 3:01 at the end of our hour, so I wanted to pause here. Thank everybody for joining and having a great conversation. I think we've obviously come across a couple of good new ideas of what we can do, and some fun stuff. We can fill an hour by blindly testing random applications in a group setting, and having some good discussions about policies and procedures and how things operate. So thank you, everybody.